Rashi's pointing out over here is as follows. There's extra wording here. The lashon of idri anach yadelu. Idri means he lifted himself up. He lifted himself up and he went to go ahead and plug up the hole. We'll say, what's the pshat? So Rashi says, that's what Rashi says. Idri is lashon nosei. Kilomar higbia v'nasa atzmo la'amot. He lifted himself up to be aser because that's the one he came in contact with. It'll be aser b'shtiya, but not b'hana. We're not really choshish that this is yayin nesech because at the end of the day there's no room for shikshuch. There's no room for him to move his hand around. So he can drink it, but it's mutter b'hana. Both say top of samich v'idach shari. But the rest of the barrel is absolutely mutter. Now Rashi points out over here v'idach shari af b'shtiya. Rashi says the rest of the barrel is going to be mutter even for consumption. The kasavar studin lav chibur le'asar kala yayin. So we'll say, interestingly enough, Rav Papa holds that lemaisa again the wine is not considered to be connected. So because it's not considered to be connected, only the wine by the spigot will be asar. The rest will be mutter. The ikad amri. We'll say there's an alternate version of this exchange. Amar Rav Papa ad habarza chamra asir. The idach shari. So we'll say, interestingly enough, so there's another version. We'll say in this other version, the Gemara says, Rav Papa says, ad habarza. What does that mean, ad habarza? Look at Rashi. Ad habarza. Kol yayin shalamala lenekev aser. Dechevan dekulo nimshach achar hanekev lotzes derech sham havelichiba v'asa. So we'll say in this version as follows. Now, what's interesting about this is the following. So you would think that it appears that during times of the Gemara, these larger barrels had a spigot. The spigot was not all the way on the bottom of the barrel. It was towards the bottom, but there was a wine level that was above the spigot and below the spigot. I will say in this alternate version of Rav Papa, what's happening over here is as follows. Ada barza means the wine up until the area of the spigot will be asr b'shtia, will be asr for drinking. V'idach, but anything below the spigot will be mutter afilu b'shtia, even to drink. What's the distinction there? We'll say, what's the svara in this ikad amri? The svara is that the Ovid Kochavim we know came in contact with the wine at the spigot area. The wine at the spigot area in this version is considered to be supporting all of the wine above it, and therefore again there's a chibur, there's a connection. Therefore we view it as if what? The alcohol has touched the wine at the spigot and all of the wine above that level. Therefore all of that wine becomes asr b'shtiya. And I will say there's good news here. The good news is I can't drink it, but at least Baruch Hashem it's mutter b'hana. So I could sell it. I could definitely go ahead. I'm hopefully not going to lose money from this. Any wine below the spigot area, I will say, is considered to be a separate and detached entity from the wine above it, and therefore again it becomes mutter even b'shtiya. So we'll say these are the two versions of Rav Papa. Amar Rav Yemar. So we'll say Rav Yemar said as follows. Let me just find. Sorry. Rav Yemar says as follows. Okay, so Amar Rav Yemar, Kitanoi. So also Rav Yemar suggested, indeed this is a machlokes tanoi. Chavis shenakva. So we'll say if you have a chavis. Now we'll say this actually is not talking about yayin nesek. This is talking about wine of truma. So if I have a barrel of truma wine, shenakva, and again there's a hole in the barrel. Bein mi piha, bein mi shuleha, bein mi tzideha. We'll say whether that hole in the barrel is on the top, whether it's on shula means the bottom, or mitzideha. Mitzideha we'll say ultimately means what? That it's on the sides. So we'll say now what happens? The nagaba tvul yom. So we'll say remember again who's a tvul yom? Tvul yom is a person who was tamei, went to the mikvah, but requires herav shemesh. Remember, not every form of mikvah is not every form of tumah is immediately remedied through immersion in mikvah. Sometimes you need the setting of the sun. That's our tvul yom. So now what happens? The tvul yom touches the truma wine. So we'll say, or I should say, he plugs up the hole in the barrel. So what's the halacha? So whether he plugged up the hole on the top, on the bottom, or on the side, tameya. Ultimately, again, the wine will be tamei. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Mipia mishula tameya. If you plug up the wine, right? If he plugs up a hole on the top or on the bottom of the barrel, ultimately, again, it's going to go ahead and be tamei. Mitzideha tahora. But ultimately, I should say mitzideha tahora mikan mikan. But ultimately, I will say if he plugs up the hole on the side, so the wine on both sides will still remain mutter. So we'll say, so the Gemara is just suggesting that this same machlokas that applies by the barrel of truma wine and the nigia, ultimately the touching of that wine by the tvul yom, will be the same machlokes ultimately that exists in the case of the akum as well. So the two different versions of Rav Papa Rav Osai, essentially in version number 1, we have only the wine that is opposite the area of the spigot is going to be asr, and in version number 2, any wine at the spigot area and above it will be asr b'shtiyah. Anything below it ultimately again will be mutter. I thought I brought the Shulchan Aruch with me. I could be that I did not. If I didn't, I owe it to you, Amir Hashem, over Shabbos. Okay, I didn't bring it with me. I apologize. Okay, we'll come back to the halacha l'maisa. Amir Papa. So we'll say so again. That's case number 1. So spigot case number 1 is the Oved Kohavim is plugging up the spigot either with his hand or just by inserting his finger. There is no shichshuch. There is no movement of the hand. What's the halacha? Two different versions of Rav Papa. Version 1, the wine opposite the spigot area is going to be asr, but the rest of asr b'shtiyah, but the rest of the wine is mutter, even ba'ana. Version number 2, all of the wine at the spigot area and above the spigot area will be asr, but everything below it will be mutter. Gemara suggests the same machlokes that applies by yayin esech will be the same exact machlokes that applies ultimately again by a chavis of truma, by ultimately truma wine. So says the Gemara. Amar Papa, Rabbi say this is another fascinating case. Oved kochavim adana v'Yisrael akuba. Just listen to this. So we'll say now what you have over here is as follows. So remember again, you would have wine in a barrel. Now obviously you're going to pour that barrel. You're not going to keep wine in the barrel, but you're going to pour it into smaller utensils. So what happens if the Oved Kochavim is the one who is holding or manipulating the barrel? He's pouring the barrel. Oved Kochavim Adana, the Yisrael Akuva. And the Yisrael is holding the smaller utensil. So the Oved Kochavim is tilting the barrel. The Yisrael is holding the smaller jug in order to receive the contents of the barrel. So we'll say, what's ta'alacha? Ta'alacha is asir. Right? So the chamra asir. Ultimately, again, the wine is asir. The wine is asir. My time, what's the reason for that? Ki ka'asi mikoach Oved Kochavim ka'asi. Why Rabbi say? Because as that wine is being poured out the koach of the Oved Kochavim. We'll say, look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says, Oved Kochavim Adana, Ma'ara Hayayim Midana Lakuba. So we'll say, so the Oved Kochavim is pouring the wine from the barrel into the smaller utensil. The Yisrael Akuba, the Yisrael holding the smaller utensil, Va'okso Biyado, Chamra Aser, Rashi says, Bahana. Now we'll say, now, again, this is very dramatic because Rashi is saying over here that Aser means not just Aser B'Shtiyah, but Aser Bahana. Dahainu Nam Yayin Shemazgu Oved Kochavim, V'Kochohu, so we'll say, remember again, this is another example of the case of kocho. This is the case where, remember again, although the paradigmatic case of yayin esech or stam yayin, we'll say is where the akum is actually manipulating the wine himself. In this case over here, it's kocho. This is no different. Again, what was our first case of kocho? Our first case of kocho is where the akum was pouring the water into the wine to dilute the wine. So therefore, the Gemara suggests over here, so too over here, the wine is being moved, kocho, as a result of the akrabos. So this is even more direct, because remember what's happening over here, as opposed to the water case, where the mice again, I'm pouring something that agitates the wine. Here, the Oved Kochavim is agitating the wine himself, and therefore, again, it will be aser. Next case, Yisrael Adana va'Oved Kochavim akuva chamra. We'll say, what about the other case, flip case? The Yisrael is going ahead and tilting the barrel. And what is the Gemara says? Chamra shari. Why is the wine mutter? I will say, why is the wine mutter? Because bepashtos, what is the akum doing? What is he doing? Nothing. Hopefully, all he's doing is he's just sitting there holding the jug in place, right? His job is to make sure that the jug does not tip over and spill the contents, but he's not moving or agitating the wine. So because of that, the wine should be totally mutter. But asir. I will say if he moves the jug around, right? If he's meshach sheikh the jug, then ultimately again the wine is going to be aser. Amar Papa, Hi Oved Kochavim didari zeka v'ka'azu yisrael achore. So let's listen to this. Let's say now you have an Oved Kochavim. Now we'll say didari zeka. Rashi says he's carrying a zeka. What's a zeka? Rashi says nud kosher. It is a wineskin, right? A leather wineskin that is tied up. So the akum is carrying the leather wineskin, but the good news is it's tied. What happens? V'ka'azil Yisrael achore, and the Yisrael is following behind him. So we'll say, so now what's the status of the wine in the wineskin? Somalia shari. if the wineskin is full, then ultimately again the wine will be mutter. Why? The lo mekarkish, because I will say since the wineskin is really full, you can't really agitate the wine. In other words, because it's full, there's so to speak nowhere for the wine to move. Look at Rashi. Rashi says over here, "V'kasi Yisrael achorei, v'chazi delei naga ovid kochav megavan." I will say now the idea over here is the Yisrael is following behind the akum, so that at the end of the day, the Yisrael knows that the akum did not open the wine skin and insert his hand on the inside. So he sees him, he knows he's not inserting his hand on the inside. So the shaila is there a shikshuch, is there some type of external agitation of the wine in order to go ahead and render it aser? We're saying that's not really happening. Why? Because the wine skin is full. If the wine skin is full, ultimately, again, there's no real place for the wine to move. So the Gemara says, therefore, again, I'm sorry. I lost the place. Right, but if the wineskin Rabbi say is not fully full, aser dilma makarkish. Because Rabbi say if the wineskin is not full, then what? Then the akum could move the wine around in the skin, and that ultimately again will render the wine aser. Kuba malya. Rabbi say, what about if a person has a full barrel? Right, a full barrel of wine. Kuba malya aser dilma nog. He's manipulating the barrel. This is assuming the barrel is open. The lid of the barrel is open. If it's full, then when he grabs a hold of the side of the barrel, it's quite possible that what? That he touched the wine itself. So kuba malya, if the barrel is full, aser, then ultimately the wine will be aser. Why? Dilma naga. Because we'll say at the end of the day, perhaps he's going to go ahead and touch the wine. Right? Chasera, but if the barrel is not full, then what? Shari. Then ultimately the contents will be mutter. Why? The lo naga. See, Rabbi said one thing is clear, which is when you're manipulating the barrel, what by definition do? You put your hand inside the lip of the barrel. So the concern is if the barrel is full, the akum is coming in contact, mamish direct contact with the wine. If the barrel is deficient, then lamaisa again, there's a way to kind of hold on to the lip of the barrel without coming into direct contact of the wine. Ravashi says, Ravashi will say goes back to the wineskin case we just had. So we just contrasted. So we'll say, see the difference over here? In the wineskin case, if the wineskin is full, again remember now the wineskin case we'll say has two pieces here. Number one, it's tied. Number two, what else? You have a mashkiach. Right? The Yisrael is right there. So again, assuming that it's tied, the Yisrael is right there. So again, if the wineskin is full, it can be meshachshech even from the outside, and therefore again it can render it asr. So when we say asr, remember, what does asr in that case mean? Asr means asr b'shtiya in that case, right? It's going to be mutter ba'ana, but asr b'shtiya. That's case number one. Case number two, we're saying the barrel is just the opposite. In the barrel case, if it's full, it's problematic because then when the alcohol manipulates the barrel, he's going to end up touching the wine. If it's deficient, then he can put his hand in the lip, pour the wine without any nigia. Ravashi now circles back to the wineskin case. Ravashi Amar Zeka, when it comes to the wineskin case, bein malya bein chasera shari. Whether the wineskin is full or whether the wineskin is deficient is going to be mutter. Why? My taima ein derech nisuch bekach. Because we'll say again, it's closed. Right? It's totally closed. So because it's totally closed, we'll say that's not the derech of nisuch. Remember again, let's go back for just a moment. Even though I will say what we are doing is we are going ahead. Remember how this whole conversation starts. The whole conversation starts with a concern that an obed kochavim is going to turn the wine of a Jew into yayin nesech, into idolatrous, into libational wine. So now we extended it, and we extended it to say that any Gentile contact with wine is problematic. Despite all of that, comes along Ravashi, and Ravashi says, okay, but it still at least has to resemble a potential, it still has to resemble at least the circumstances under which nisuch could occur. No akum, no self-respecting akum is being menasech wine in a closed leather skin, right? In a closed wine skin, I will say that's not how nisuch occurs. Nisuch could occur when the receptacle holding the wine is what? Is open. But if it's closed up, there's no nisuch that occurs over there. Therefore, Ravashi says, if the wineskin is mamish, not closed, the wine, because ein derech nisuch bekach. Now look at Rashi for just a moment, I will say. This is Rashi 4 lines down on the wide lines. Ein derech nisuch bekach, ava bekuva malaya, ikala mechash lenegia, kishu no sin. Barrel case, why? Because in the barrel case, the barrel is open. Because the barrel is open, there is the possibility for negia, for contact. And because of that, nisuch is a real concern. Fine, weiter. Ma'atzra zaira. This is actually a very interesting case. Ma'atzra, listen to this, Rabosai. Up until now, we're dealing with wine presses. And what's the nature? What was the tzura of the wine press that we were dealing with? Quite simple. What is it? It's a big receptacle that has a tube at the bottom. The tube at the bottom leads, or I'll say to what? To another receptacle, to a vat, which houses the wine. There's one more piece, which is at the end of the pipe, which leads between what we'll call the upper vat and lower vat. What is there? There's a basket, right? And that basket strains out any pieces of grape that gets in there. You stomp. There's another type of wine press, right? Gemara points out there, where it's called ma'atzra zaira, we'll say, which is, if you look at Rashi, so gat de'in darchen ela kovshin bakor. So we'll say the way this wine press works is as follows. You would go ahead, we'll say, and you would have boards. And you would place those boards on top of the grapes. Those boards would be pressed down and ultimately, again, extract the liquid. Now, what we're going to say, Abosai, is that there are two different ways that you could operate a press like that. The simple way is you put the grapes in, you put the boards on top, and then what do? You stomp on the boards. You stomp on the boards. And Abosai, so essentially, it's the same stomping, but Lamaisa, because you're applying your pressure on the boards, your pressure is diffused amongst a much larger area, and you get a lot more productivity. Fine. That's one possibility. The other possibility I will say is that you would have boards that are laid down across the grapes. Then you would have another board that would go across the grapes. And then essentially you would have like a screw supply pressure that essentially is laid down perpendicular against the other boards, essentially pressing down the boards on top of the grapes. So for me, no stomping. All I'm doing is what? Is turning the screw. That's all I'm doing, is turning the screw. So we'll say that's called a ma'atzra if at the end of the day the akum worked that press. Let's say the akum worked that grape press. Now we're assuming right now for just a moment. Well, let's analyze this. So the akum works that press. So what's the halacha? Rav Papa Shari. Rav Papa said the wine is mutter. Rav Ashi v'tim Rav Seimra Ashi aser. And Rav Ashi, and others here, Rav Seimra Ashi said that it's aser. So I'll say, so what's the case? So bikocho. So we'll say, if we're talking about a case where it's my koach. Now remember again, what's my koach? My koach, when we say kocho is the case where I put the boards over the grapes and I stomp on the boards. So we'll say that's called kocho. Kocho, so it's my koach that, see, I'm not directly stomping the grapes, but it's my koach that's pushing down the board. So bikocho, kuli amalo pligi. Bikocho, kuli ama. All right. You could check this message. This message you could check. Right? So bikocho, kuli amalo pligi. So ultimately, causes the grapes to be stomped. So we'll say if it's kocho, if it's kocho, everyone will agree that it's aser. If it's kocho, that's the machlokes. Ikadami will say others have a different version. Koach kocho kuli amalo pligi dishari. No. In the case of koach we'll say everybody agrees that it's mutter. Keep pligi. So where do they argue? Big kocho. Where do they argue? They argue in the case of kocho. So hava ubda b'koach kocho. We'll say there was once an episode with koach kocho, which we'll say means the case of where the akum is turning the screws on the press. Va'aser Rav Yaakov minar pekod. And we'll say Rav Yaakov said that even in the case of koach kocho, it will be aser. So we'll say it sounds like from the Gemara over here that even having the akum work the press, which is the koach kocho press, which is all the akum is doing is turning the screws. It sounds like the conclusion of the Gemara over here is that will still be aser. Not only is, so both say, I just want to be clear. So now we have three stages. Stage number one is where the akum is pressing the grapes with his feet. That's called gufo. That's going to be aser, right? So we'll say second case is kocho, which is the boards are placed on top of the grapes and the akum stomps the grapes. So that sounds like what? That sounds like that's going to be aser. Now we'll say koach kocho is the case of where he's causing the boards to press down on the grapes through turning the screws. And the Arpa code said that was aser as well. Ha'u chavisa. So we'll say, let's go weiter. Ha'u chavisa amud beis. De ifkia la'arka. So we'll say, listen to this case. So there was a barrel of wine, right? A Yiddish barrel of wine, a Jewish barrel of wine. And what happens? We'll say the barrel split down its length. Right? This was down the length of the barrel. So we'll say, so what happens? So in idri hahu oved ko'ochavim. So we'll say, so again, you see the same lashon that we started out with before. Idri means what? The oved ko'ochavim sprang into action. He sprang into action. It's like we said before, right? In other words, Rashi point. Remember that lashon of idri. Idri means Rabbi say higbia v'nosa esatzmo. It's hard to get yourself moving in life, right? Our natural state is at rest. At rest. So the Nachri, he springs into action. Chabka. We'll say, what did he do? He hugged the barrel. He's not a barrel hugger, right? He's not a barrel hugger. But we'll say the idea over here is the barrel is split. What is he trying to do? He's trying to go ahead and keep the barrel from splitting more and ultimately causing a loss of wine. So I'll say, but what's the shaila now? Rashi says, Chavka beinzra osa v'chibra at sheviu klis. We'll say, obviously this barrel is gone. So the goal is, let's bring out the shaila is what? What's the status of the wine? So the Gemara says, Sharye, Rafram bar Papa, Vitim Rafun B'Rav Yoshua, Lizabuni la'ovdei kochavim. So we'll say, so they allowed, so Rafram bar Papa, or let's say Rafun B'Rav Yoshua, permitted the Jewish owner of the wine to sell the wine to Ovdei Kochavim. So we'll say, so it's going to be Aser B'Shtia, but totally Mutter Ba'ana. Okay, look at Rashi just a moment, we'll say, Lizabuni la'ovdei kochavim, the Halo Shich Sheikh. Because remember, obviously, this is a case, the akum was not meshachshech, meaning he didn't agitate the wine at all. Vafilu shekire v'chatzon zuluzu vavinogea b'yayin ayidei chatzay achavis lo havi kinogea b'kana dasim meshachshech b'kana v'hacha leka shichshuch midi. So we'll say, so the idea over here is there's mamish no shichshuch. There's mamish no shichshuch. But what you do have, you get hana. You can't drink it, but you can get hana. Length of the barrel. Aval lefusye afilu b'shtia shari. Now we'll say if it's split across the width. So we'll say imagine for a moment the barrel doesn't split down the length, but the barrel splits against the width. So we'll say now imagine for a moment the akum comes along, and what does the akum do? And we'll say now b'pashto suki Rashi aval lefusye Rashi says hoyol ve'iniv dalos zemizeh. So we'll say if it splits again across the width. So Lamaisa, then the two parts are not separate from one another. Sharichetzia elyon yoshev ala tachton el shiyotze ma'at ma'at va'ovid kochavim echbidan zulazu v'lo havi nogeh v'dachak yain v'chavis. So let's listen to this. If it's split according to the width, then I will say, what's the issue? The issue is gravity does most of the work. Because remember, again, what it needs to do is apply pressure to the top of the barrel in order that it sits squarely on the bottom. So the beginning, which means I will say totally mutabana. What's the reason? My taima, my salavina ka'avid. Because we'll say essentially the akum is acting as a brick. In other words, you could have just as easily accomplished the same thing by what? Putting a brick on top of the barrel. I just need something to weigh it down. So we'll say, so the Gemara makes a distinction over here between if it splits down the length or it splits down the width. If it splits down the length, so that the akum is mamish, one responsible for saving the wine. So there's really a lot of direct contact there, and therefore what? And therefore alocha l'maisa. And therefore, alocha l'maisa, it'll be aser b'shtia. Totally mutter v'ana, but aser b'shtia. If it splits according to the width, the akum's not really doing anything. He's acting as the brick, and therefore it'll be mutter even b'shtia. Good. Ho ove kochavim dishtachach davikayim b'ma'atzarta. So listen to this case. They found an ove kochavim, that's what, who was going ahead and standing by the wine press of the Jew. So look at Rashi just a moment. It's almost right across in Rashi. Davikayim ma'atzarta. The Yisrael, he was standing by the winepress of the Jew. So we'll say, listen to this case. He was standing by the winepress of the Jew. Now the truth is, there was only really like grape juice residue in the press. The shaila is, do we assume that the akum touched that grape juice residue, or not? In other words, what's the status over here? Rav Ashi says it depends. So we'll say, Rashi says it depends. If there's enough moisture, we'll say tofeach latfiach means that there's enough moisture to what? That to go ahead and that it's wet and it could cause something else to be wet as well. So in other words, there's enough moisture again that mamish if you touch it, that it's wet, and if you apply it to something else, it could cause it to be wet as well. So there's enough significant liquid there. Then what? Then on both sides, the press is going to require hadacha and niguv. Rabosai. Now we will discuss. Hadacha means a rinsing. Niguv, Rabosai, means a purging. We're going to get to this later on, Rabosai, that there is a process, ultimately again for kashering a press in which there was yayin nesech. So again, those two processes for kashering a press in which there was yayin nesech requires hadacha, which means a rinsing, and niguv. Rashi kind of gives us coming attractions over here. Rashi says niguv is efer umayim. Right? It really means you need ashes and water. So it's going to be purged through ashes and then cleansed again through water. So if there's enough liquid residue in that press that it's moist and it could cause something else ultimately again to become wet as well, then it needs to be kasher. V'ilo. But if there's not tofeach hamanas latfiach, there's only a little bit of residue, but not enough to make something else wet, then what? Ba'adacha ba'al nisagilu. All you need to do is rinse out the press, and you're good to go. So we'll say, again, I want to be clear, we didn't do justice to that sugya. The Gemara is not doing justice to that sugya. That's going to be a sugya bifnei atzma, about how to go ahead and kasher a press after yayin nesach. Good. Says the Mishnah. We'll say, weiter. Oved kochavim shenimtza omed b'tzad habar shal yayin. So we'll say, listen to this. I find an akum standing by the pit of wine of a Jew. So we'll say, what's my shaila? What's my shaila? Now again, it looks like he's minding his own business, but Lemaisa, do I have to be concerned that what? Maybe it was Meshach Sheikh the wine, right? Maybe he went ahead and made it into Yayin Esech. So what's the halacha? Im yeshlo milva alav aser. So we'll say, if the Jew owes the akum money, then ultimately the wine is going to be aser. We have to assume that it's Yayin Esech. Eino milva alav. But if the Jew does not owe the akum money, then what? Mutter. Then ultimately the wine will be mutter. So we'll say, look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says over here, Yesh lo milva alav, yesh alav milva al Yisrael. If the Jew owes the akum money, then ultimately the wine is aser. Why? Lefi shelo yare liga. So we'll say, see, under normal circumstances, so an akum is going to be somewhat fearful of going ahead and making the wine of a Jew into yayin nesach. Why I will say. Now this is based on what we learned in yesterday's sugya. What did we learn in yesterday's sugya? That lemaisa again, as much as the wine is aser ba'ana, I can collect damages from the akum who made. I can't sell it, but I can collect damages from the akum. So the akum knows, Rabosai, that as much as it might be, fun for him to turn the wine of a Jew into yayin nesach, there are ramifications of that. So what the Mishnah points out over here is as follows. So under normal circumstances, there's a yira. He's fearful of doing it. However, if the Jew owes the akum money, the akum is not fearful. Why? What's the worst case scenario? Well, best case scenario is I make it into Yayin Nesach and what? The Jew never finds out. Worst case scenario, he finds out in what? And what? I'll get repaid through the wine. It's not a big deal. I mean, he owes me money anyway. So whether he pays me in cash or he pays me in wine, that's the worst case scenario, right? Worst case, even if I'm found out, he'll pay me back in the wine. So I'll say, therefore, the akum really has no incentive not to make it into yayin nesach, and therefore, again, the wine will be aser. Ein lo milva alav. If the Jew does not owe the akum any money, then what will say? Then the akum runs the hafal labar. Let's say the akum falls in to the pit of wine. Falls into the pit of wine. She falls into the Jewish pit of wine. So say what happens? Va'ala, and he comes out. Or madada bekana, right? So we'll say these are all. Listen to these cases. Madada bekana, we'll say means what? That he goes in and he measures the amount of wine in the pit. Or hit his esatzir. So we'll say madada bekana means he puts a reed in there. Now with pashtos, if he's putting a reed in there, what's happening? He's going ahead and he's moving the reed around. Rashi points out over here now that the novelty in this case is what? Is that in all of these cases we're going to see it's clear, or he fell into the wine, he just wants to get out. Or hit his esatzira. Or Rabbi said there was a bee in the wine, and what does he do? He chases it out. So but Bekana, with a reed, foaming. And what does he do? He taps down on the lid of the wine to kind of cause the foam to dissipate. This is if one of the wine is from in. It's another one, which also is another way of saying that what? It's asr b'shtiya, mutar ba'ana. These are all cases, Rabbi say, of contact with the wine, where it's clear circumstantially that there's no fear of yayin nesach. He fell into the wine, right? He's going in, he's measuring the wine, he's chasing away a bee from the wine, he's getting rid of the foam from the wine. So it's clear circumstantially that his kavanas have nothing to do with libational purposes. Nevertheless, asr b'shtiya, mutar ba'ana. So the Gemara says, Reb Shimon matir. Reb Shimon says it's mutar. Reb Shimon says it's mutar even what? Even b'shtiya. Even for drinking. So not sachavis v'zarka bechamasa labar. So we'll say what happens if the akum takes a barrel and he throws it in anger into the pit of wine. So we'll say in this case over here, what's happening? He's taking an object. Now that barrel is empty, right? He's taking a barrel. He's throwing it. So we'll say what is he doing? He's causing the wine to be agitated. This seems to be a case of kocho. He throws it into a fit of anger into the pit. Zehayamaisa. This actually happened. Vichshiru. And the rabbis said ultimately again, the wine is permitted afilu b'shtiya. Okay, so let's analyze these cases. Amr Shmuel. Vahushi Shabosei. Let's go with the first case. First case was I find the akum standing by the pit of Jewish wine. So we'll say, so what did the Mishnah say? If I owe the akum money, then what? Then the wine is usr. If I don't owe the akum money, then the wine is mutter. So it says the Gemara, Amr Shmuel, Vahushi Yishlo Milva al Ose Yayin. We'll say it's not just the pshat that I owe the akum money, but it's rather that what? That the wine that he's standing next to, Rabbi is what? Is the collateral for the loan. The wine that wine that he's standing next to is the collateral. I will say, so now it makes sense. If the wine that he's standing next to is collateral, I have to assume that what? That the wine is yayin nesach. Why? Because the akum has absolutely no reason not to make it into yayin nesach. Because manavshach, if he's not caught, fantastic. He just got the Jew to drink yayin nesach. And if he is caught, what's the big deal? He'll just accept that wine as payment for his loan. So the Gemara says, our Mishnah seems to support this reading as well. This nan, hamitaher yeno shel ovdi kochavim v'nosno b'shuso. We'll say if a person goes ahead and is mitaher the wine of an ovid kochavim, which means what? This is a case ultimately of where a Jew is producing wine for an akum in a state of in a tara. So we'll say the akum wants to produce wine. This is actually the next Mishnah. The akum wants to produce wine that he could sell to Jews. So we'll say, so what does he do? He hires a Jew to run his wine business. So that's hamitar yeno sh'ovdichom. So the Jew runs the wine business of an akum, but of course has to do it in a state of tara so that he can sell it to other Jews. V'nosno b'rishuso. But the wine itself is kept in the rishus of the akum. Valo kosov lo, and the akum writes to the Jew is kabalti mimcha maos. So we'll say, essentially what the Gentile does, the akum does, is he conveys ownership of the wine to the Jew, right? But essentially now the Jew owes the akum for the money for the wine. So mutter, then we'll say such an arrangement ultimately again will be mutter. Avalim yirtze Yisrael otzia ve'imanicho ad shitin la'ma'osav. But I will say if you have a situation where the Jew is producing wine for the akum, but the Jew doesn't have access to the wine unless, of course, the Jew first pays the akum in full. This happened in Beis Sha'an, v'asru, and ultimately again Chazal said the wine is going to be asr. Why? Taima de'imanicho. Because I'll say the reason ultimately again is because the akum doesn't allow the Jew access to the wine. Hamanicho shari. Ultimately, again, but if the Jew had access to the wine, then it would be mutter. Shmamina milval also yain ba'ino shmamina. So we'll say, what do you see from here? You see from here that lemaisa again, that the issue at play over here is only when the wine itself is collateralized for the halva. When the wine itself is collateralized for the halva, that's when we're choshish that ultimately the wine may become yayin nesech. So just to bring this back to our case in the Mishnah. Therefore, alocha l'maisa in the case of the Mishnah, we'll say, when the akum is standing next to the wine that is collateral for his debt, then we're choshish that what? That he touched it. Why? Because we'll say he has nothing to lose. He has nothing to lose. Because at the end of the day, either he'll get away with it, but even if he's caught, what's the big deal? He'll just get paid with that wine which was already collateralized for the debt. But when the wine that he's standing next to is not collateralized for a debt that he has against the Israel, then I will say in that case we're not choshish that the akum is going to just touch the wine. Why? Because the mice again, if found out, he would be chayiv ultimately again to pay for damages. We'll say let's do another piece. Nafal bar va'ala. If he falls into the pit and he comes out of the pit. So we'll say remember again the Gemara said, the Mishnah said that the wine is aser b'shtiya muter ba'ana. Says the Gemara Amar Papa. Listen to this. Lo shanu ela sha'ala meis. That's only if he came up dead. And we'll say, now what does that mean? That's true if he drowned in the bar, right? If he drowned in the bar, then we'll say the wine is aser b'shtiya, but muter ba'ana. But we'll say, well, listen to this. Aval Allah chai. If he comes out, right? If he comes out ultimately again alive, then what? So we'll say, so Rashi also points out over here that dead doesn't just have to mean dead. Dead could also mean unconscious, right? He's pulled out of the pit unconscious. So we'll say, now why is that? But again, if he's pulled out alive or conscious, it's going to be aser. Why? My taima amar Papa didami alei kiyom idam. Because Rabbi say, if he's saved from a Jewish pit of wine, ein yamtiv gedola mizo. Right? In other words, that's a yamtiv. He's certainly going to thank his avodah zarah. We'll say some people might thank their avodah zarah for falling into that pit to begin with. I'm saying that right. That for many that would be a yamtiv in and of itself. But the Gemara says over here, when we say that the wine doesn't become usr, or it becomes usr b'shtich, as we've seen already, anytime you're going to have direct Gentile contact, akum contact with wine, that wine is always going to be at least asur b'shtia. So when do we say that it's mutter ba'ana? That's when you're hauling his body out, either dead or unconscious. If he's getting out of his own volition, he's getting out on his own, then you have to assume again he was just saved from a life-threatening experience, which means that he's certainly going to give hodah, he's going to give thanks to his avodah zarah. The assumption is he will be meshachshech. He will go ahead and he will move that wine as well, and therefore again Allah will treat it like a yom tov, and therefore again it will be asr. All right, we'll stop over here. I'll share with you a short idea on the parasha. So we'll say we have the schus this week to begin learning Chumash Vayikra. And Chumash Vayikra, as you know, is filled with many incredible details regarding karbanos. And if we're honest, often when we come to Vayikra, it makes the parshios of Vayakil, Pekudei, Truma, Tetzaveh look interesting. Right? That's sometimes how serious it becomes. I will say, but on a serious note, it's important to understand the Torah is nitzchi, the Torah is eternal. And therefore, even the most detailed discussions about karbanos, even if we don't have the opportunity to bring those karbanos today, but Lamais again, the Rebbeinu Shalom gives us life lessons through these details as well. Life lessons that are as contemporarily relevant today as they were when they were given to Moshe Rabbeinu and Har Sinai. So the pasuk says, the parasha, the Torah begins, Chumash Vayikra begins with a discussion about the olah. So remember, the olah is a carbon that is totally consumed on the mizbeach. So the pasuk says, Im olah karbano. If ultimately, again, if you're going to bring an olah as a carbon, yakriv osol lirtzono lifnei Hashem. Person should offer it up lirtzono for his will before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we'll say, so the Maggid of Mezrich has a beautiful insight over here. He says as follows: Im ola karbano. What does that mean? Im adam rotze lahagbia atzmo mishefal hamadrega lehisalos ulehisrome. So Rabbi say, Im ola karbano means if a person desires an aliyah. Im ola, if a person desires an aliyah in life, a person wants to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a person wants to grow, a person wants to raise themselves up, which Shabbos say ultimately is what we all want in life. At the end of the day, what we want in life is an aliyah. What I want in life ultimately is to grow. What I want in life is to come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Like David HaMelech says, all I want in life is devekus. All you see, we'll say the Malbim on that pasuk. I mentioned this in a different shir this week. The Malbim in that pasuk asks, David HaMelech says, I want one thing in life. One thing in life. Shibti Veis Hashem. So the Malbim says, Danach, you want only one thing, just one thing, to dwell in the house of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What about health? What about parnasa? What about children? What about shalom bayis? What about all the things we daven for every single day? So the Malbim says so beautifully, David HaMelech understood that if you have shifti beveis Hashem, you have everything. If you have dvekus, if you have closeness to the Ribono Shel Olam, then you have everything else in life. It doesn't mean that everything else is easy. It doesn't mean everything else goes according to plan. But you have what you need in life to be successful. Therefore, says the Maggid of Mezrich, Im ola karbano. We'll say if a person desires aliyah, if a person desires kirvas elokim, a person desires to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to grow. So what's the secret? What's the secret to life growth? Says the Maggid so beautifully. Yakriv oso liritzono. What do you have to do? Yakriv es ritzono lifnei Hashem. You have to be makriv, you have to give over your ratzon, your will, to the Ribono Shel Olam. Shabbos says the Maggid something simple, but yet so profound and so overwhelmingly difficult. That what's the key to aliyah in life? What's the key of kirvas, of dvekus b'Hashem? What's the key to shifti beveis Hashem koyimei chayai? Yakriv oso lirtzono. I have to give over my ratzon, my will, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We'll say, what does that mean? That often in life, if we're honest, we live life with one simple metric, which is, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want out of life? What do I want out of this situation? What do I want from these circumstances? Again, man by nature is selfish and egocentric. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us. We have to work a lifetime to overcome that. The Rebbe says, the Maggid of Mezrich says something so beautiful. If you live life that way, then life will simply be about one thing. It'll be about you. It'll be about you. And maybe you'll be happy, maybe you'll be accomplished, maybe you'll amass whatever it is that you want to amass. But you won't be zocha to him ola karbano. You won't be zocha to an aliyah. You won't be zocha to kirvas elokim. You won't be zocha to shifti beveis Hashem. If a Jew wants to grow in life, a Jew wants to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so Rabbos, I have to switch my verbiage. And suddenly the vernacular in which I speak is not what do I want, but it's what does the Ribono Shel Olam want. See, Rabbos, a holy and sanctified life is one where in every step I take, I ask, what does the Ribono Shel Olam want from me or want for me in this situation? Rabbos, imagine for a moment a person lives life and before they make a decision, the decision is not what do I want, but the decision is what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want? Yakriv oso liritzono lifnei Hashem. I give over my ratzon to the Ribono Shel Olam. When I'm in a situation, Ribono Shel Olam, I ask myself, what do you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, want in this situation? I will say, now sometimes that's clear, sometimes it's not so clear, but it's a mindset. And I will say, if we're honest because we always speak honestly, it's not an easy mindset. Because there are many times in life where there's something I want to do. I want it. I know deep down, this is not what God wants. God does not want this form of entertainment. God does not want this form of recreation. God does not want this form of personal indulgence. God does not want me to have these chaverim. God does not want me to make this business decision. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want me to talk in this way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want me to act in this way. But I know that deep down, but I want it. But I want it because it'll benefit me, because it'll make me happy. And I will say that's the tug of war that we constantly live with in this world. My ratzon, often butting heads with the Ribono Shel Olam's ratzon. Now, there's not really butting heads, because at the end of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, look, it's your choice. You do what you want. But says the Magid of Mezrich, I will say, at some point in time, we have to learn to live life, not based on what I want, but give my ratzon over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the Mishnah in Perkei Avos. What does the Mishnah say? Asei ritzoncha ki ritzono. Ultimately, again, the goal, the mark of a Judaic accomplishment in life is when I make my ratzon like the Ribono Shel Olam's ratzon. I will say we all want aliyah, we all want kirva, we all want shifti beveis Hashem koymei chayai. But there's really only one way to get there, says the Magid HaMezrich. Yakriv oso liritzono lifnei Hashem. That as we go through life, as we make our decisions, we have to strive to come to the level where we don't make our decisions based on what we want, but we make our decisions based on what we believe the Ribono Shel Olam wants for us. May we be Zocheh Meretz Hashem to reach that level. May we be Zocheh Meretz Hashem to give over our Ratzon. No longer living life based on what I want, but trying to figure out what is the Ratzon HaBorei in any given situation. And if we're Zocheh to rise to that level, we should be Zocheh to live lives of Im Ola Karban. Shabbos.